Hi Gemini, welcome to a video for 3 things that you should know for 2021. And I'm creating these because sometimes when I'm doing my monthly forecasts, I don't always talk about some of the things that are going on at the same time or that will be going on. And I just thought it would be kind of fun to explore this. Some of these things have already begun, maybe last year or something like that, but I don't talk about them every month. And the first one I put down here is manifest your destiny with the North Node in Gemini. Even in 2021, the North Node is still transiting your sign. The way that the nodes transit are from the last degree, which is 29 degrees, down to 0. So I was looking throughout the whole year, and it showed that Gemini is still going to be where the sign that the North Node is transiting in. So I'm recording this at the very end, one of the last days of January of 2021, so at the very beginning of the year. And as I record this, the North Node is at 18 degrees of Gemini. So it still has over half of its transit left to go. And the transiting nodes are tied to the eclipses. So there's no coincidence that there have been eclipses in your sign and the opposite sign, Sag, where the South Node is transiting. And that's another thing, too. I didn't put that down here, but it goes without saying that just like when the North Node is in your sign, that you can embrace a particular destiny that may be something different than what has come before. But likewise, the familiar has to be looked at and perhaps kind of distanced from. So when your North Node is in your sign, your South Node is in the 7th house. If you are the kind of Gemini, this would be kind of a rare breed, I would think, but maybe not as much as I think. If you are a Gemini person who tends to be codependent in relationships, this is really the time to work on that and to become more of your own person, because the idea of being in a relationship, that is kind of your comfort zone, but even more so somewhere where you are maybe escaping to, where you're trying to avoid standing on your own 2 feet and doing things for yourself. So these kinds of issues really can become enhanced during this time. I mean, if you're codependent, no matter what the transits are. But if you're if the transiting North Node is in your sign, then it's really calling upon you during this particular time in your journey to become more of your own person. And how that plays out for you is going to be different than perhaps somebody else. It's not going to be all the same. It may be, that you begin to say no when you typically will just give in all the time, or that you state your opinion when asked, when you tend to avoid that. Those are baby steps, but I'm just saying that it's working with that versus staying in that obsession with somebody else's life and things like that. So in a related issue that connects with manifesting your destiny, as I stated, the eclipses are tied to this. And, in 2020, when we started having the first eclipse that we had in the axis of Gemini and Sag was a lunar eclipse in Sagittarius I think that was in June of 2020. So there, there were no solar eclipses in Gemini in 2020, and there will only be one in 2021. It's funny that Sag gets two of them and you only get one. I don't know why that is, but the point being that you're going to have a solar eclipse in your sign on June 10th at 19 degrees of Gemini. So make the most of it since you're only going to have one of these. And really, when I talk about eclipses, it's really not self-directed. These are change agents in your life, like it or not, you know. But if you are conscious about that, you can maybe take advantage of things that come up that you might have just taken for granted. I think that's where I'm kind of going with that. And this isn't like totally connected, but kind of connected. So number 2 is consciously expand your horizons, including the spiritual. I've already done videos, or maybe a consolidated video, about Jupiter and Saturn in Aquarius and what it means for Gemini sun. This video, by the way, is intended, mainly for Gemini sun signs, but that one was also for the rising sign. That was talking about Jupiter and Saturn both being in Aquarius and what it means for your sign. That is the 9th house. And the 9th house is an area of expansion. It's Sagittarius's house, and it's the house opposing your 3rd house. So there's kind of like this, they call opposing signs complementary signs because they do complement each other. They seem to be polar opposites, but they really are not. There's really a lot in common between the two signs. And this is true of all the, opposing signs of the zodiac. But with Sag and Gemini, there's that sense of being the teacher, being the disseminator of information. And for Sag, it's more of the profound variety, or the religious, we could say the philosophical, the longer lasting. Gemini is like the town crier, the one who is giving the immediate information, the mundane information. And by the way, mundane sometimes I think has a little tinge of negativity to it as an adjective, because it sounds like it's just I don't know, like insignificant or something. But mundane, it means worldly. We live in the world, so even the news, as long as the news is real and not just complete propaganda, but if it's something real, it's actually giving us information on how to navigate this material world. So it's not something that is unimportant. And yet you have this activity going on in that 9th house, not your house, the 3rd house, but the 9th house. And this also involves foreign travel. Your 3rd house that you rule involves the local environment. And both of these things are important. It's important to, think globally, but you're acting locally, right? You're acting in your own environment. So, because Jupiter and Saturn are in this 9th house, and by the way, Jupiter rules the 9th house, so it has like a simpatico, or it's just very aligned with that area. If you know this, you will, you might not turn your nose up at offers that connect to this. So for instance, let's say you're a professor and you're given the opportunity to travel and teach, abroad. And maybe for other reasons, even though you love to roam, Gemini, you just feel like, I don't know, I'm just kind of, I just bought a house, or I just had a child, or my wife just had a child. It just seems like I'm going to be turning my life upside down by having to go to a foreign country. But then when you see that, especially at the beginning of this year, we're going to have a very crowded area with Aquarius, wherever it falls in people's charts. In your case, it's that ninth house. You might say, maybe the universe wants me to do this. And you give it more importance, or, significance, and you kind of override your reluctance to do it because you know that there's a higher purpose. But this can involve so many different things. Maybe you're 40 years old and you've always wanted to go to college. And it's not necessarily for a particular career. It was a goal of yours. Or go back to school, get your PhD, whatever. This may be the time when it's really calling to you and you have to answer the call. And the third thing I wrote is be ready for change. And to be honest with you, I couldn't really think of anything that was particularly significant enough for me to mention that was specific to Gemini, because you already have like your own thing going on, with the North Node transits and the eclipses. So I just said be ready for change in general because of the eclipses and because of the North Node. I feel like you're being pulled in a certain direction. And I do think that this is coming from events in your life that are conspiring to make you choose a certain path. But, even Geminis can be stubborn if they have inner planets in Taurus, and Taurus is a sign adjacent to you. You might very well. And, or, moon signs that favor kind of more wanting that what's the word? Predictability in your life and not wanting these sudden surprises that the eclipses tend to bring. And it's important to note that even though you're only having one of these eclipses altogether, I don't even think you're having a lunar eclipse in your sign. And let me see, I might be wrong about that, because there is going to be a full moon at the end of 2021 in Gemini, but I don't think it's going to be an eclipse because it's going into Taurus, and I think it's going to stay. It's just a full moon. But the point being that this whole idea of the eclipses being more in Sag, there's going to be a solar and a lunar eclipse. Actually, there's going to be, in 2021, there's going to be in May and then in December. I guess it's just a lunar and solar eclipse. So it's just one of each. For Sag, those are going to affect you because Sag is your opposing sign. So, and when I say you, maybe not all Geminis to the same degree, because it has to be within those degree ranges, obviously, for it to be a true opposition. But in any case, I wanted to say that because that will still affect you, because it will make an aspect to you. But I wanted to go back briefly to the second point that I made about the spiritual influences, expanding your horizons, because the ninth house is a house that's associated with God, but also the Taurus lunar eclipse on November 19th, that is at 27 Taurus, is happening in your 12th house. So the 12th house is the house of karma, karmic past. Um, in this lifetime, it can be like repressed memories, secrets, but on the spiritual level, just the spiritual realms, the dream state, things like that. The lunar eclipse can, I feel, really wipe out, and I mean that in a good way, a lot of the karmic baggage that you may have, that has impaired you on some level, maybe at a very subtle level, and you don't even realize it. And so phobias, anything that is keeping you from living your best life possible, that could manifest as, wiping the slate clean, because the 12th house is the last house. So we start that cycle again, and so it's where everything collects after it's been through lifetime after lifetime. And the other thing, too, is that in your 10th house of career, you have transiting Neptune. And this can sometimes be maddening for some Gemini people who feel lost, who feel like they don't know who they are, because this can be a form of identity. It's your place in the world. And it's how other people see you. And so people may see you. This has been going on for 10 years now, since 2011. And they say about you, I can't figure this person out anymore. They're not like how they used to be, or something along those lines. And that is kind of like how you are, appearing to others, and especially from a professional level, it can feel like you don't know what you're doing anymore, because maybe your heart isn't in it. Neptune in Pisces is Neptune in its own sign. Pisces is very sacrificial. Pisces is a healer. And Gemini is an intellectual. So getting from the intellect to the spiritual is quite an adjustment. And it can feel like you don't know how to navigate that, but you may feel a strong pull in the spiritual direction. So I'm just putting it out there for those of you who may have vague understanding, a vague understanding that this is happening to you, but you don't know how to articulate it, or you thought you were crazy. No, you're not crazy. I mean, this is something that is part of your journey in this life. And this is one of the best things that I think about predictive astrology, is that not to give the message that we are just victims of fate and everything is down to the nth degree and we have no free will. That would be horrible. But to, when you feel confused and you can't logically connect it to anything, then this becomes a vehicle to see things from a different perspective. Okay, Gemini, that's what I have for you. I hope that you enjoyed this. If you would like a private reading, the link is below to gain more information about the type of readings I do. Take care. Bye.